right as we hit record. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Room and Board. Have a nice little sip of Stardust coffee. Delicious. Tastes like real clouds. I don't know what that was. We're taking a look at a review of Stardust coffee, and this is a preview copy. It is out on Kickstarter right now. If you're watching this, maybe you were on the Kickstarter page, or maybe you just like me, in which case, hey, thanks so much. But this was sent to me for review, and it is a game all about making the most delicious coffee in the galaxy. If you make the second delicious coffee in the galaxy, well, it doesn't matter for anything whatsoever. The galaxy is only big enough for one person to be making delicious coffee, and that's you, presumably, and not your so-called friends who you're attempting to play this game with. I'm coming in hot today. I don't know why. Anyway, first, let me tell you how to play, alongside this immaculately filmed B-roll. Now, Stardust Coffee is a game that's going to be taking place over 10 rounds. You have those 10 rounds to get the most coffee delivered to various cities across the galaxy, and as well, you have that time to level up your ship and collect extra Stardust to both make your ship work better and, of course, make the coffee taste better. Because obviously the same thing that powers up your ship and lets you do magical things will make everybody go nuts for their delicious coffee drink. And so on your first turn, you're going to roll the 4 dice and assign the yellow one to where the Stardust can be collected in the galaxy, and then have the other 3 for drafting purposes. And you're going to take one of these dice and you can do various things with these dice. And you'll do all of these things at the same time, or not at the same time, but you'll get to do all of these things on your turn. First, you'll get to move your ship, positioning it in the best location that you can. Then you'll get to take whatever dice you took. You'll get to use the color of the dice for a specific action, usually generating that specific color of resource or jumping to that specific color of resource, basically giving you an extra move action. And then you'll use the number to do something else as well, and you could potentially get a special ingredient if you're on the correct space, or you can use any upgraded ship powers that match that special number to let you do additional cool things. That's the basic outline of the game. You're going to be collecting those resources, and you're going to be keeping them on your board until the end of the round, where you then assign them to your coffee cup, and you can have one outgoing order, one outstanding recipe that you have to fulfill at any given time. And when you complete that, then on the following turn, you can deliver it to a city and take a new, harder to complete recipe and rinse and repeat, trying to score as many recipes as you can in the 10 rounds. Through this time, you're also going to be powering up ships and avoiding pirates who are attempting to attack you and steal your coffee supplies. Because, as we all know, pirates have a bit of a coffee sweet tooth. Caffeine tooth? They don't have any teeth, they all have scurvy. But if they get Stardust in their coffee, well then maybe their teeth will grow back. And so these pirates will be chasing you around the board as you attempt to maneuver yourself away from them, or get close to them and then shoot them in the head with whiskey. You basically just give them whiskey, you bribe them, you get them drunk. There's no way to fight the pirates. It's just like, listen, here, you can have this whiskey, just leave me alone for the duration of the round, please and thank you. And of course, for doing that, you get to go up on the honor track as well, because there's nothing more honorable than giving whiskey to pirates. Sorry, fighting them off. Anyway, that's the basic structure of the game, but you'll notice that there are only 3 dice, and this game plays up to 4 people. You're going to have up to 3 different ships that you can move every turn. So what happens when you run out of dice? Well, at the beginning of each turn, you can choose, if you don't like the dice that you see, you can choose to re-roll all of the dice, but in return, the pirates get a little bit angrier. They're going to move a little bit more at the end of the round, or if everyone continues to re-roll the dice, searching for that perfect number that will get them to their perfect space and give them that bonus ingredient and give them the opportunity to get that extra Stardust. As you push your luck and search for that number, the pirates get a little bit angrier, and they can actually be triggered to move before they're supposed to move at the end of the round, and steal even more of your supplies if you're in the wrong spot on the board. It's fairly simple. That's the overview. We don't need to get into all the details of the rules and the minutia, because that's the essence of the game. And first things first, I love that this is such a small, compact box. You can really fit a lot into this box. There's a surprising amount of components that are actually in a box of this size. It's very slim, and yet all of these actual components do fit inside the box. No, I do love the compact nature of this box, and this is also something that I think we're going to be seeing in a lot of games moving forward as the shipping crisis or shipping costs get more and more. It makes sense to make a package that is compact, and yet it surprisingly holds a lot more game than I would expect a game of this size or of this box size to actually hold. Let's get rid of these these mugs before my cat decides to go on a spree and knock them all over. But that's really one of the great parts about this game, is that there's no wasted space. In a time where space is paramount, it's nice to have a game that's, you know, got a little bit of depth to it. The strategic choices in it aren't necessarily extreme, but it's a satisfying enough experience, and it is more likely to stay on the shelf because it does come in such a nice compact situation. The size of the box is the size of the board, and then you have all the other various components, which are really nice, especially for this prototype copy, to have the unique shapes when they could have just been cubes. There's some nice touches in here. Now, box size aside, because you shouldn't just purchase a game just for the box. Just because it's small doesn't mean that it should earn a space on your shelf. This is a game that plays like a lot of Roll&Writes feel to me, which makes sense. You're choosing a different colored dice, you're choosing which dice to take, you're kind of up to the will of the dice and the numbers, but there's always something that you can do on the board because you first get to move and you get to generate smaller resources, and that's a nice cycle. It feels like a nice flow as the game progresses without too much intense decision making. You're thinking, oh yes, I need a brown 5. And you'll roll the dice and you won't get a brown 5, but you might get a brown 3 and you might get a blue 5. And then the decision becomes which of those elements is more important. Is it the brown, so I can end up on that brown space and get the basic items? Or is it the 5, so I can end up on that brown space, for example, and get the bonus item? The advanced ingredient that I desperately need to upgrade my ship, to get the upgrade that I want, or to complete my coffee, which is very important because that's how you get the majority of your points. And so I really do like that aspect of the game. I was surprised at that feeling, but I think it suits the game fairly well and gives like a slight interesting decision to make while not being completely overwhelming. That being said, there are some issues with the way that things currently are. This rulebook is probably one of the worst rulebooks I have ever read, and that's solely due to translation issues currently. So if you are backing, keep in mind that they need to very specifically invest some money in rulebook design or in translation, or else this will be difficult to understand. And when you get into some closet cases where you have no idea what something means or why you should do it that way, that's kind of frustrating. They also desperately need to add some player aids into this game. So I played this game with a friend who I don't play a lot of board games with, because I thought it would be a fairly manageable game to get through, and it was, and he got there around halfway through. He really started clicking, okay, this is the strategy, this is what I do. And it was exciting to see, but this could have been accelerated a great deal if there was only just a couple player aids on what you get to do on your turn, because there are 7 things that you get to do on your turn, and you do them in order, and the order matters. You move, you take the color action, you take the number action, you have a chance to upgrade your spaceship, you have a chance to collect Stardust, you have a chance to add Stardust to, I don't even remember what they all are at this point. I'm gonna have to pull it out. You have to fight off pirates, that's the last one. I think then it's upkeep. What am I missing? Oh, deliver coffee. You can deliver coffee, which is basically if you passed by a city globe, or landed on a city globe and you have a completed cup of coffee, you can deliver that coffee. And then you can also attack any pirate spaceships as long as they're not in port, because you can't attack anybody who are in a city, because that, you know, that just kind of makes sense. But it was drastically impacted by the lack of player aid, especially for new players who aren't as used to keeping a lot of that information just in their heads. There's no reason why this shouldn't have a player aid, or why it can't be included on the board, or something that tells you the order of operations. In addition, and I'm not quite sure still how I feel about this, but the way you complete your tickets or your coffee, it feels a little weird. You basically have to wait until the end of the round before you can take all of your resources from your board and put them onto your coffee cup, and then you have to wait till the next round until you pass by a city or land on a city to deliver your coffee. And in one sense, I really appreciate this because there's a limited amount of space that you have on your board. So the reason why you're forced to wait until the next round is that you then have to be strategic about what resources you actually complete. You can't just stock up and then complete 2 or 3 tickets in a row. And I like that aspect of it. I like that there is this sort of constraint upon your resources that you are unable to use until you get to a certain point. But on the other hand, it kind of slows the game down and slows the momentum down a little bit because everybody has to wait until that end time. And so if you're able to complete a coffee before someone else completes it, that feels like it's a huge push in the right direction because you've managed to clear a lot of your own board and they're still stuck with getting that one last advanced ingredient and then having to wait basically a whole turn until they're able to complete that coffee. So I like it, but it also feels different than just being able to complete tickets over and over. It adds to a different sensation, which is great because it's nice to have games that do have different sensations than the classic, get a bunch of resources, complete a bunch of tickets, and move things forward. But it also feels like a tiny bit unnecessary that you have to do these steps, or especially because you have to deliver it at a city globe. That basically just means, okay, whoever's first player gets to complete it on their next turn, or gets first choice at choosing one of the 4 coffee recipes that are up and available for all players to choose from. They basically just get first choice because your movement is going to pass you by a city globe anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like you're ever going to be in a spot where you can't hit a city globe, because even if you have the modular board, or if you're using the modular board aspect of the game, the 4 city globes are always going to be in the 4 corners of the board, or at least it's recommended for that. So that seems silly. Or there will be these tiny cases where you have that perfect number, which you have to choose, obviously, over completing the thing first and taking your choice of the next coffee cup, if everybody is tied for coffee. But on the subject of the modular board, I really do love that the way you create the board is you can make it even and spread it out, or you can just shuffle all the tiles other than the city globes and have a random assortment of places to go on the board, in which case you have to wait till you go a full lap around the board, which is kind of hard to do, to get back to certain resource clusters. And this is interesting to me. I think it adds a lot to the replayability of the game, that you can modify the arrangement of everything, and yet it doesn't have a huge impact on someone's going to get screwed because they're not close to certain resources, because everybody is going to have 3 ships for the majority of the game. You start with 2 ships that you can move as you're playing pieces, and when you complete your first ticket, one of the starting tickets that are fairly easy to complete, you get your 3rd ship. And so you're usually going to have access to most of the spaces on the board, but it is just enough that sometimes things are out of reach if you don't completely plan effectively, which is good. The other, probably final critique I'll give onto it is that it also feels a little bit difficult to get Stardust. And I like that it is difficult to get Stardust, or you're trying to roll your dice so that the Stardust can appear at the space where you want it to be, because upgrading your ship feels really fun, but you get points for upgrading your ship, and you get points for adding additional Stardust to each coffee ticket. It just feels like there aren't that many opportunities to use that Stardust when it could be so prevalent throughout the game, or could be so important throughout the game. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that I want to have more of in each game, and I don't. And perhaps that adds to the replayability of the game because you're constantly seeking out new ways to upgrade your ship. But for me, I felt I want to, at the end, or at least in the last couple turns, have become super powerful and are hitting that crest, and I feel like I was never really getting to the top in the plays that I ended up doing. But again, maybe that just takes more plays, right? And this also benefits the push and pull of trying to get the Stardust in the right place, because you're going to be re-rolling the dice, hoping to get the Stardust where you need it to be, or trying to push that a little bit more aggressively, and that in turn triggers the pirates to act a little bit more aggressively as well, which means you need more stockpiles of resources, or else they just power down your spaceship, which you took so long to actually upgrade. I think this is a game that functions fairly well at all player counts. I think at a 4-player count, it's a little bit more interesting because the pirates are going to be activated a little bit more, or there's more people to pick off, and there's less resources that just end up piling up on various spaces. But then again, for the time that it takes versus the actual strategic decision making that you're going to do, I feel like 2-player is better because I want it to be a bit quicker. There are so many steps of things that you have to do on your turn, and I find with 4 players, everybody going through those steps, it's not a lot. It really isn't. Once everybody's familiar, it's fine. But I just like it at the 2-player count because it does feel a bit quicker, and I like getting those piles of resources as well. Because again, it makes me feel like I can do more things. So hopefully that gave you a decent breakdown of what Stardust Coffee has to offer. If you like roll-and-writes and you like the roll-and-write genre, check it out. Again, I'm not sure how much it will be. My guess is that it'll be 25 to 30 bucks US will be the price tag on the Kickstarter. We'll see if that's right, because I don't know. I haven't seen the Kickstarter before this review goes out. But at that price point, if it is that, I'd say it's a, you know, it's a decent enough game, and with the smaller box size, which I love, I imagine this will stay on my shelf for a decent amount of time, and it is one that I would be happy to play if somebody suggested it as well. Because I am impressed with the quality of components, or maybe I just like the little Stardust shape. But yeah, anyone who is a fan of roll-and-writes in that genre, I would suggest definitely check this out. It might appeal to the Catan lovers in your household as well because of the rolling and generating resources and getting those resources if you're in the right spot aspect to it. Again, it's not strategically the most dense game in the world, but it is a very enjoyable, you know, relaxing experience to chuck some dice around and get some resources and sip on some Stardust coffee. Anyway, hopefully you found this review helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, do it. I'm sure you already are, because you're all great. I mean, you're still here. You probably liked the video anyway. And hey, if you do end up backing, well, write in the comments that I sent you there, because, I don't know, I think it's fun. I don't get anything for referrals, so, you know. Thanks for being here. My name's Chris George, and, I don't have a catchphrase. But as they say in Super Mario Brothers, that's a Stardust coffee!
Sorry, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I don't even know what she thought I was, how she picked that up. See you later.